Psalms 83:18. That men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the most high over all the earth.
Okay, I'm Kiriandru. Allow me to give a presentation entitled Sacred Name Movement Accused. This one is the first presentation. So allow me to first of all give a brief description of Sacred Name Movement. S&M is a group of Bible believers who teach Hebrew names of Mighty One of Israel and his son. And this teaching can be traced back to Exodus chapter 3, verse 13 to 18. And the son is Matthew chapter 1, verse 20 to 21. Bearing in mind that the Savior, or the son, is a Jew, and the book of Matthew, the way it is presented, it was addressed to the Jews, amongst other doctrines. So this is just one doctrine. It is amongst the other doctrines. This one is where we are accused mainly. We also don't use pagan names and titles or pagan gods of the nations in reverence to him. As we can read it in Exodus chapter 23, verse 13 and many other verses, where it says, "And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the names of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth." This verse actually is talking about we don't have to invoke names of other gods. So we believe this instruction is still binding. But Christians, they believe the law has been done away with. Bearing in mind that the word God is also a name of a pagan object worshipped by the heathens, we don't use it, as Moses avoided mentioning the moon and the sun in Genesis chapter 1, verse 16. We also use general terms like Almighty, Sovereign, the Eternal, Heavenly Father, etc., where applicable. And we believe that the name attached to that commandment is not Lord, but is Yahweh. Mainstream Christianity, even those whom we share many teachings, i.e. the 7-day Sabbath keepers, are coming out to accuse us for our stand on the name issue. In this presentation, I would like to respond to a section of Dr. Thiel, the founder of Continuing Church of God, YouTube video entitled Sacred Names, True or False Gospel, as shown in this video clip.
Now, the Old Testament was written mainly in Hebrew, with a small amount in Aramaic. And those who point out sacred names will point to the Old Testament and their interpretation of Scriptures. And one of the things that will be commonly pointed out is the third commandment. So why don't we go ahead and read this. This is from the New King James Version. This is from Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. It says, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, so the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain." Now, what people will point out is that you see the word Lord in capital letters in many translations, including the New King James. And that's actually not what that word is. It's the word is YHVH, is how we would put it in English. Term is pronounced different ways, but Yahweh or Yahweh are the most common ways it would be pronounced. It means I am that I am, or the eternal, or the self-existing one. Because the term Lord is not technically accurate as far as the Hebrew is concerned, when I give sermons and I read over this name, I will sometimes either say eternal or Yahweh or self-existing one, or sometimes I'll just say Lord, but generally speaking, I may change it because I know that's a little more accurate as far as the Hebrew is concerned. Now, cursing God's name is shown to be a violation of God's commandments. You can read about that in Leviticus 24:11. Yet, and I've read the New Testament many, many times, having variations in pronunciation or using other names for our Creator is not. In the Old Testament, there's...
In the video clip, Dr. Bob Thiel's foul sacred name movement, saying, we point to the Old Testament and their interpretations of scriptures in our name teachings, which to him is heresy. This is partly not true, since we use both the Old and the New Testament books in our teachings, even in our teachings of the holy names. It is important to understand that the Old Testament and the New Testament books are in harmony. In other words, it is the same thing in all teachings, contrary to what most Christians, including now Dr. Bob, try to say. The question in this case is, does Dr. Bob make reference to the Old Testament and the Ten Commandments? Reading his much literature, which are actually very good in the internet, you find that he also makes a lot of reference to the Old Testament books. Why does he now falsely and selectively attack sacred name movement for what he terms as pointing to the Old Testament? Also, Bob is kind of saying the New Testament has done away with the Old Testament teachings, yet you will find him making reference to Matthew chapter 5 verse 17 when he teaches the Ten Commandments, saying Yeshua did not do away with the law of Moses and the prophets. He then states that the third commandment is commonly also pointed out in the teachings of sacred names. Then read the third commandment and say people point out that Lord in capital letters in many translations, including New King James Version, and that actually is not that word is. The word is YHVH, or we put it in English. The term is pronounced in different ways, but Yahweh or Yahweh is the most common ways it will be pronounced. It means I am that I am, or the eternal or self-existing one. Bob here is divided and does not want to commit himself on whether the third commandment should be kept, since he earlier accused the sacred name movements for pointing out the Old Testament in teaching of the sacred names. See his selections of words. He says that commandment is commonly pointed out. So here he is talking about some other people pointing out the third commandment. Secondly, he does not want to commit himself as whether the English word Lord in capital letters is the name which should not be taken in faith. He associates that inaccuracy to some people by saying, what I say, people point out that Lord in capital letters in many translations, including New King James Version, and that actually not that word is. So here is also making reference to some other people. He is himself is not telling us whether this word is accurate or not. Now, Bob seems to know the truth behind sacred names. He seems to also apply the teachings, but does not want to accept it in full or to reject completely. What Dr. Bob, this one is Bob, should tell the world is whether he agrees that the term Lord is accurate or not. He should also agree whether the third commandment is still in place. Bob continues to say, because the term Lord is not technically accurate as far as Hebrew is concerned, you see how he's speaking? When I keep summons and I mention, I read over his name, I will sometimes either say eternal or say Yahweh or self-existing, sometimes say Lord, but generally speaking, I may change it because I know that it is a little more accurate as far as the Hebrew is concerned. I don't know, do you see how Bob is talking? He doesn't want to commit himself. He's saying, like what he's saying here, as far as Hebrew is concerned. So the term Lord is technically is not technically accurate as far as Hebrew is concerned. So he is not committing himself, so he is associating with the Hebrews. The term is inaccurate. Secondly, he is now also saying he would now make some changes when he's reading the scriptures, because these terms are not correct as far as Hebrews are concerned. What about to him? He is a doctor. I don't know, is it in theology? Does he believe the term is accurate or inaccurate? Or in his belief, he is attaching to the Hebrews? Here, Dr. Pope admits that he also changed the word Lord to eternal, or say Yahweh, since he knows the use of Lord is not accurate, though he is attaching to the Hebrews. This is exactly what Sacred Name Movement do. The only difference with Sacred Name Movement and Bob, between Sacred Name Movement and Bob, is that Bob is not fully decided. That is why he associates the inaccuracy to Hebrews. That is why he keeps saying, as far as Hebrew is concerned. I think he said it twice. Bob continues to say this. Now, casting God's name is shown to be. See also what he say? Is shown to be violation of God's commandment. If you read about that in Leviticus 24 verse 11. He then say, yet, and I have read the New Testament many times. And then, having variations of pronunciation or using other names for our Creator is not. That is what he says. So he's trying to say the New Testament now is giving room for breaking this law. Here, Dr. Pope Thiel goes ahead to also quote the Old Testament and agree with it that casting God's name is shown to be violation of the commandments. The problem with this way of speaking is that he is not assertive. Here he is also say, now casting God's name is shown to be violation of God's commandment. Is shown. Or will be better for him to say, why doesn't he just say casting God's name is violation of commandment? Why does he have to say is shown? The use of the word is shown to be shows that his belief on this matter is extrinsic, it's outside. Bob then say, yet, and I have read the New Testament many times. This statement comes just after him explaining how it is shown that casting God's name is violation of God's commandment. Okay, God here is that's what he's saying. I'm not the one saying. Now, note that he hesitates at this point with some killed laughter. If you replay the video, you will realize he has some killed laughter here. So he's like he's speaking what he doesn't believe in. Then say, having variation of pronunciation or using other names for our Creator is not okay. Pope is hesitant to suggest that the New Testament books allow casting of the name. He put it clearly that the New Testament allows using variations of pronunciations and other names. This type of belief suggests that the New Testament books contradict the Old Testament according to Pope, which is not the case. Now, question: which names or which other names are in the New Testament? Okay, the name of the Father is Kyrios. The name of the Son is pronounced Jesus. In reality, these terms did not start to be in use in the New Testament, as I have explained in another video. These terms did not come into use during the writing of the New Testament, but in the writing of the Septuagint, which is actually a translation, and these terms were just followed in the writing of the Greek New Testament. This is the end of part 1.